You know, folks, the whole world is talking about Bitcoin. Want to know why? Maybe it's because Bitcoin rose in value over 150% last year, and this is just the beginning. Bitcoin is online investing that anyone can do. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org today. Take a master class. Download the Book of Bitcoin and take your investment portfolio to the next level. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org and discover all that a Bitcoin can do for you. That's bitcoinuniversity.org, bitcoinuniversity.org.
Talk Radio 77. WABC.
Curtis Sliwa is your upcoming host. Curtis, Governor Hochul is set to bring back congestion pricing, unpause congestion pricing any minute now. What do you think of that one?
How dare you? Think you could just go into your rip and read of news without addressing a far more serious issue that is looming over our broadcast here.
What are you talking about?
You were in the facilities at WABC yesterday, like doing a double shift. You were working until about 10 o'clock at night.
Uh-huh.
I must have seen you 20 times in which you stopped for small talk.
Yeah, we're talking about Matt Gaetz and, all the other stuff going on.
I know, also sports. You're very, very much into sports.
Yeah.
Trivia. You're a trivia master.
I love trivia.
And as you see, Greg Kelly is claiming he can beat me in trivia now, but all these things that you have an interest in, and you're like a male yenta sometimes. They can't shut you down.
Right.
So earlier this morning, I get called over to the boss's office, not upstairs, not the big boss, John and Margot, but the president of our parent company, Red Apple Media, the Capa de Tutte, Chad Lopez.
Yeah.
He sits me down. He says, you may want to take a seat here. I said, oh, my God. Was he going to clip me, fire me, whatever? No, it wasn't that, but it was worse. It was absolutely worse. I would have preferred getting fired for the many complaints that come in that I'm spewing misinformation. I'm like the Alex Jones, InfoWars of local news and information. And he looks me in the eye and he goes, nah, don't get upset, Curtis. But we got to take you out of the lineup. I'm saying, what? I'm on so many times. WABC always broadcasting, Curtis. Does he mean off with Sid in the morning, Monday through Fridays at 7:15? Off for the Rip and Read, Monday through Fridays at 12 to 1. Off with Dominic Carter, where I do the Tunnel to Tower 5-minute segment at the end before James Golden. Off on the best side of the other side of midnight, 12 to 6, Saturday morning. So nice. Say, let me do it twice. Sunday mornings. Off of the extended Rip and Read Sunday nights with my wife Nancy, and then the Animal Welfare Hour. I'm wondering which.
Yeah, it's probably easier to list the times you're not on the air.
And then he dropped a bomb on me. He said the decision has been made to put you on the shelf, left versus right. I said, put me on the shelf? It's the second time you did this. We started off, it was me and Anthony Weiner, right? Remember that? Me and Anthony Weiner. You said, oh, you're not tough enough on him. So you put Roger Stone as Stone Zone. Then you didn't feel it was what you wanted. So the boss man himself, John Katsimatidis, he got involved. Then he got so busy, he couldn't always be here on a Saturday afternoon, 4 to 5. So what did they do? They put in Dominic Carter. And I mean, these guys were throwing blows. And it got so bad, they were going to end up in the ER. They almost came to blows.
They were two scorpions in a brandy glass.
Very good. And so then they come back to me a second time and say, you the guy. And I said, hey, you're not changing up now, right? We go, no, you the man. Then I find out from Chad that I'm being put on the shelf. No more left versus right. And then I said, well, who's doing left versus right? James Flippin. And I said, that dastardly SOB, that backstabbing Judas, utredito, usinit. You must have passed me 10 times yesterday in the hallways. You didn't say Jack Diddley squat. I had to learn it from Chad.
Well, I thought you would have seen the text chain yesterday when Chad put the word out. He wanted the imaging and some of the promotional stuff updated. And he said it's going to be Flippin' on Saturday.
Yeah. Not only after I put down that Matt Gaetz is the Robespierre of the Trump administration.
And thank you for bringing that up, because that was completely out of line. Okay, you're referencing the Jacobin who was murdered during the French Revolution, and then you're trying to compare Matt Gaetz to some figure in the French Revolution.
So you know about the Jacobins.
I'm aware of that. Yes, I feel as though that really. You have made it very clear that you've got a lot of objections to the selections for Trump's cabinet, that went too far.
The fact that I call Christine Noem-Laden the Michael Vick of the Trump administration.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one yet.
They don't get upset at that. But the fact that I call Matt Gaetz the Robespierre, the Paris Commune, off with their heads, my little pretty, of the Trump administration, then all of a sudden they decide to whack me and put you in, and you don't even give me a heads up on that.
I thought that you would have read the text, and I furthermore thought that it wasn't going to be a big deal.
Wait,
you've got so much airtime.
Wait, read the text. I can barely send an email. I'm a Luddite. You know that. This is a form of technology of the word. I don't mind being swapped out. It's happened before. This is the business that we have chosen. It happens. But the fact that I had to hear it from Chad, and for 10 hours I saw your facha bruta, your ugly wasp hillbilly face, and you never even gave me a heads up. Get the hell out of here. I don't even want to look at you after this.
Well, I was going to continue to go into some of the stuff about congestion.
I don't want to hear you. Bring in your boss man, Noem-Laden, news director. I got to have a talk with him now.
I'm being put on the shelf now for news?
Yes, you're being put on the shelf. The fact that you would stab me in the back. Hey, two Brutus. We'll bring in Cassius here and find out if he was part of this Ides of March, which is actually in November 14th. No, I couldn't be more pissed off. Your guy, James Flippin, that you brought over from WOR, Women's Only Radio.
Right, what's going on in here?
Well, first off, let me thank all of those listeners who are now listening to WABC, because they realize that ship is sinking now that they've removed the morning show of what were the guys' names?
It was called Lennon Michael in the Morning.
Yeah, that's gone. And they've really got nothing there right now. It's a sinking ship. Just as I did when WCBS went off the air, when Wayne Cabot, remember, gave the final words that Sid danced on their grave. Remember, I welcomed over the 880 listeners.
I remember that, yeah.
And they've been coming over in droves. And now I do likewise to the WOR listeners. I will never again refer to WOR as Women's Only Radio. So you see, I want to thank the WOR listeners for coming over and listening to WABC, the right side, but I do not ever want to deal with this ultradito, this backstabber Flippin. How did you not know the fact that he was going to replace me on Left versus Right Saturdays from 4 to 5 with Anthony Weiner?
Well, I thought everybody knew. I was told about it yesterday.
Well, I tell you what.
What's that?
I'm going to do his job now because I can do it better. Breaking news.
Breaking news. WABC.
You want some breaking news?
Yeah, I'd love some breaking news.
Okay, 80-acre area that has been put aside near College Point. The old Flushing Airport that I've been to many, many times. You have to get over the fence. It's now sort of like filled with all kinds of marshland. Opened in 1929. It was opened up before LaGuardia Airport. It was the airport you had to use to fly into New York City. Right next to the New York Times printing plant. Right next to one of the great neighborhoods of all time, College Point, which most people don't even know exists. And now, all of a sudden, those 80 acres of wetland are available for development. And this will be like the last of the opportunities to get wine, dined, and pocket lined by Eric Adams from all those greedy developers. You know that, and you didn't even know about this, did you?
No, not till now, but I know it's a large parcel of land undeveloped. I mean, every developer in the city's going to want this piece of land.
Oh, my God, and they are going to be bribing every official in the Adams administration, which is always open for a bribe, as you know. Oh, my God, I wonder if Vicky Palladino knows about that. She's in charge of that area. Boy, they just dropped this. This is unbelievable. This airport has been closed since 1984. It's been wetlands. It's got frequent flooding. They wanted to have a blimp project in there. They discarded that. Man, wait, do I have to do your jobs
No.
in the newsroom?
No, you don't have to do our jobs.
Do I have to be doing the breaking news?
No, you don't have to be doing the breaking news, but apparently you want James Flippin's job, so this is a good start.
Let me give you some more breaking news.
Breaking news, WABC.
Although I gave the hors d'oeuvre, as you know, earlier this morning, as I always do with Sid Rosenberg. You listen to me Mondays through Friday, 7:15, and I give the entree here on the Rip and Read. I told everybody that Eric Adams is not partying any longer till the break of dawn. He's not going to Club Zero Bond downtown, and he's not going to Con Sofrito in the Bronx.
Really? So what's he doing with all that extra time?
You know this well. He puts his yarmulke on, and he's going to Oh Hell in Cambria Heights.
Wait, Mayor Adams is Jewish?
When he needs money.
Oh.
He loves the Jews.
Right.
He loved Farrakhan for a while in 1990, but he realized they were very supportive, but they wouldn't write him any checks. And then he realized, gee, if I'm going to show me the money, that's what it's all about. Show me. I got to hook up with Jews. And there's no bigger macha to hook up with than the burial area of Menachem Schneerson and his wife, leader of the Lubavitches. They claim is the Mashiach. Yeah, keep waiting out there. He ain't coming back. But you know, people from all over the world come to that cemetery.
Well, yes, if you come to the Rebbe's gravesite in Queens, it's supposed to be good luck. If you pray over it, then you're supposed to rip up the prayers, the wishes that you have, and then you throw them on top of the Rebbe's gravesite. And then there are volumes of books inside this little trailer that's next to where the gravesite is that lays out all the miracles that have come true after people have prayed over that grave.
Very good.
Yeah.
See, you know.
I've been there before, yeah.
I have too, as a righteous Gentile many times. And people truly believe if they're going to jail, if they've lost their fortune because they're swindlers, if they have cancer or any kind of medical maladies or their children, whatever the bad situation.
Yeah.
If they go there and leave a little note, like in the Western Wall, you leave a little note to Hashem there in Jerusalem. Somehow, some way, the Mashiach.
Well, can I give you a prime example?
Exactly.
I went there, and this was a number of years ago. I was a little low on cash, and I prayed for cash. And on this white piece of paper, I ripped it up into shreds. I threw it over the Rebbe's grave, and about 2 weeks later, I got a $10,000 check. True story.
From who?
A relative who passed away.
Wait. From the Publishers Clearinghouse?
No, it was a relative just passed away, and I got a $10,000 check.
What was it? McMahon?
No, it was a true story. And then I told them, of course, and maybe now that's in one of the volumes of books that sits in that trailer, the story of how I got $10,000.
Here's the book, right? Look, the aura.
Oh, wow, you actually do really have the book.
And I am featured in 4 pages of this for saving the Lubavitches after the pogrom, remember, in 1991?
I do remember
How quickly people forget 30 days, 30 nights. But on that very subject, I heard very bad news from King David II. Every day, somebody else decides they want to run for mayor. This is what Sid Rosenberg had to say after sitting with all the big mockers, all of his Jewish friends last night. You know, once a month, they have a minion at a dinner.
That's right.
Your 2nd Avenue Deli, which is really on 1st Avenue.
I don't think that's where they go, but yeah.
Whatever. This is what he had to say.
There seems to be a growing opinion that David Patterson now may be the next mayor here in New York.
I read another one.
Wait a second. So there could be a setup because you're obviously going to run on the Republican ticket, and I can only assume David Patterson's going to go for the Democratic side, right? He's not a Republican.
No.
Okay.
Although sometimes he's sounding more and more like a Republican, if you've heard him on the 5 o'clock roundtable discussion.
So you could be potentially running against your husband-in-law?
Yes. In fact, the other week, John Katsimatidis and Ed Cox, chairman of the GOP, came into my little studio on the side where I do 2 hours of preparation for every hour I'm on piles of paper, and said, hey, it looks like it might well be you and David Patterson in the general election. So they must know something about Eric Adams, who's going to be putting on a MAGA hat soon on January 20th and possibly being hired, believe it or not, by the Trump administration. This happened once before. A mayor named O'Dwyer was in trouble, was going to get indicted. And President Harry Truman said, I'm hiring you away. I'm making you ambassador to Mexico. And the guy left being mayor of New York City
Come
to
on.
be I kid you
Did not know that story.
You got to look that up. I think Trump is taking a page from O'Dwyer. So there's that. And Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo may not be jumping in. So because now it's looking more and more like Hochul is really wounded. And you know he really wants to be governor.
Yeah.
He wants Van. You don't have to work hard as governor.
You know, he knows that gig. He knows what it's like. Already.
Yeah, well, you don't have to work hard as governor. And nobody pays attention to you. You're locked away in Albany.
Right.
Who the hell watches what you do?
Nobody is. You're right.
But as mayor, you got to be on your game 24/7, 365.
Second hardest job in America, right after
until
president.
Bill de Blasio came along and then was
I agree with you.
part-time,
right.
smoking ropes and dope at night with his crooked wife, Charlene. I sort of did. You don't hear that any longer.
No.
But it looks like this may well be. Eric Adams gets hired by the Trump administration and maybe sent away as an ambassador like O'Dwyer was hired by Trump to be ambassador in Mexico. Then you can't touch him. He's in a foreign country. He has diplomatic immunity. See?
Huh, smart.
Already figured this out. And Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, you notice of late, he's quiet. I mean, every day I'm running for mayor, and then all of a sudden, Trump wins.
Yeah, he's gone silent.
Right, but he watched Hochul go absolutely berserk on Trump. And then I think he said, I really want to be governor. It's a lot easier job. I sit up there in Albany. I can get the perv on all of my staff. Nobody pays attention. Down here, it's like, oh, my God, everything's under a microscope. Up next, that's what I'm going to be talking about.
Wait, you missed out something, though. You have your son, Anthony, who it sounds like either way, your son, Anthony, their father or his stepfather will be the next mayor of New York City. So
we've already had those conversations yesterday.
And did you promise him anything if he votes for you? Because how's he going to decide who he's going to vote for?
I said, which father are you going to support?
Right.
And I could see he was a bit traumatized, so I eased off.
Well, remember David Patterson saved his life not too long ago.
And I continue to give him credit for that.
In that, beatdown up in
he did.
Upper Manhattan.
He really did.
Yeah. Have you done anything like that for Anthony lately?
No, the only thing I've done is over years, as his mother reminded me, is subject him to potential beatdowns because of all the beefs I would get involved in while I was walking around with him. But you know something?
He could kill your campaign by deciding to vote for. If he comes on here and says he's voting for David Patterson, that's huge. People in New York will be like, wait a minute. His own son is not even voting for him. That could turn the election right there. His vote may be the most important vote in New York City.
Get the hell out of here, you troublemaker! You and James Flippin. You're a old traditor, too.
Sometimes entertaining, sometimes serious, always compelling. This is Talk Radio 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and read. Check this out.
This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read.
When I go round in circles. They fly high like a bird up in the sky.
It's another week, and it's another rumor that is being floated of who is going to jump into the ring of fire and run to become the next mayor of New York City. You know I am, in whatever form this election takes. But Sid brought up the latest rumor this morning when I joined him, as I do Monday through Fridays at 7:15.
There seems to be a growing opinion that David Patterson now may be the next mayor here in New York.
That is being rumored about. Justin Ellick last Friday. In fact, John Katsimatidis, our owner-operator, and Ed Cox, the New York State GOP chairman, came into the studio on the side where I do my show prep, 2 hours of prep for every 1 hour on the air, and say, hey, it's starting to look like you versus David Patterson. Well, let me explain that there are certain things that have to take place first. Here is David Patterson talking about his hero, Eric Adams.
I think we're looking at a mayor who is being bludgeoned but really at heart is a hero for this.
Now, right now, David Patterson is co-chairman of the Legal Defense Fund to keep Eric Adams out of jail with the crook Frank Carone. If he extricates himself from that responsibility, that'll be a strong sign he's running. And then the question that many people have asked, including our own Suzanne Miller, on the Real Estate Show had Dave Patterson on, is how come when you replaced Elliot Spitzer, you never actually ran for a full term yourself, like Holcomb did when she replaced Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo?
I didn't run for governor because I thought if I did, I'd be indicted.
Indicted? And who would have done that, Justin Alec, but the Attorney General at that time, Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo? Remember that story when the Philadelphia Phillies were playing the New York Yankees in the World Series 2009 that the Yankees won? And they clipped David Patterson for $63,000, said he illegally took tickets to the Yankee game. Ed Rendell, governor of Pennsylvania, had no problem getting free tickets. You know who dropped dime on him? Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo. That's right, the state attorney general. And I know this will be revenge for David Patterson because Cuomo would hesitate jumping into a race in which the surrogate for Eric Adams, who will get a job in the Trump administration as an ambassador when he puts on the MAGA hat on January 20th when Trump is sworn in, like O'Dwyer got a job in Mexico City from Truman as the ambassador when he was going to be indicted as the mayor of New York City. You see, history repeats itself. He could get his revenge on Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, who threatened to whack him.
Check this out. It's the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. What a kerfuffle I've created in the house of WABC hosts and hostesses who are involved in idolatry of Donald Trump as president. He can do no wrong in his picks to fill up his cabinet. He chose the Barbie doll, Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota, who I have labeled the Michael Vick, the dog killer of the Trump administration, and the last minute pick yesterday of Matt Gaetz that I have described as the Robespierre, off with your heads, famous in the Paris Commune during the French Revolution. Anyway, we'll get into that momentarily. So I've been taking on all comers here at WABC because they put up their Trump shield, which they feel he can do no wrong. First up in the queue was Greg Kelly, who's on after me from 1 to 3. He felt like over the airwaves he had to explain to me, like Ricky Ricardo would say, who MAGA is and what they are.
You see, Curtis, MAGA is, it's about ideas. We're allowed to think. We disagree sometimes. All right? Fair enough? Boy, oh boy. How many people told me, Curtis thinks he's got me now.
Oh, hundreds and hundreds of people that were berating Greg Kelly. In fact, ironically, yesterday I was leaving at about 10 o'clock, just about the time that James Flippin, the news guy, was departing after doing 2 shifts. Never told me he was going to replace me on Left versus Right this Saturday with Anthony Weiner. He's going to be on the right. Never told me in the 10 hours he was here. He left. He goes one way back to Bloomfield, New Jersey. I was like, oh, man, I ain't getting into the subway. One of those rare occasions I was going to jump into a cab. Remember, I have an aversion to cabs because in June 19th of 1992, when I got in the back of a cab in the Lower East Side to go to do the morning show at WABC, I got shot 5 times with hollow point bullets on the orders of John Gotti Sr. to John Gotti Jr., friends of the Mamaluke Frank Morano of the Gambino crime family. So I have an aversion to taking cabs. I jump in a cab, and who says, Curtis? It's Greg Kelly. He goes, hey, can I jump off? Blah, 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 blah. I said, come on in, Greg. And he kept working me over. And now I'm going to be working him over again because I'm going to remind him and all of you, this was Christine Nome, the Barbie doll governor of South Dakota, who in her own voice, in her own autobiography just recently released in the audio section, talked about how she murdered her hunting dog.
When I got back into my truck, Cricket was sitting in the passenger seat, looking like she had just won the lottery. The picture of pure joy. I hated that dog.
Oh, my God, the hate. And then she pulled out her AK-47 with a full clip, brought her hunting dog into a ditch, and unloaded that clip into her. And then went back to the truck, reloaded, put another clip in. The dog was writhing in pain, bleeding out all over the place, put a few more shots in a Cricket's head. Dog killer. So remember what the response of Greg Kelly was the very next day when the controversy was blowing up. He was appalled, like almost everyone else in the nation.
Governor Nome, and she was on Hannity the other night, and she's trying to say this is a fake news plot. I don't think so, Christy. I think you're a little bit nuts. I think you are just, you're a real piece of work, and it all went to your head or whatever.
Now, he didn't necessarily walk it back yesterday. I thought he would, because, Team Trump, you can't say anything negative about Donald Trump or your persona non grata. I'd say it was like mezze, poco. This was Greg Kelly yesterday.
I don't have to like Kristi Noem. It's no big deal. That's life. I'm glad she's loyal to President Trump. If I should ever find myself, I will seek to avoid her. I don't really want to talk to somebody who shot a dog and bragged about it in a book. It doesn't mean she can't do a good job as a Homeland Security Secretary. I'd keep an eye on her, though. It says something about her judgment. She's out there in the woods. I know that South Dakota is a pretty rural place, but I'm sure they have a dog pound somewhere in that entire state. And she's the governor, right? Couldn't she have arranged for the dog to be brought to the dog pound? One of those no-kill shelters, but instead she killed the dog.
That's right. So stick to it, Greg Kelly. Don't vacillate on this. She's the Michael Vick, dog killer of the Trump administration. But he's getting a little soft on Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan. Remember, he's the first here at WABC that said that Eric Adams would not finish out his term in office because he would be mired in corruption. To his credit, that was Greg Kelly, long before the rest of us said that. But he continues to hammer Eric Adams. But now, because Trump has embraced him, ever so slowly, he's sort of unwrapping his octopus-like suction cups from around his neck where he wanted to metaphorically choke him out.
I hope he gets very serious about running for mayor. There's a real opportunity here. Eric Adams has now this strange alliance with President Trump. How about that? And I told you, Eric Adams, I've had this guy's number from day one. And America is becoming more a country about what you say rather than a country about what you do. And I think he's done a pretty terrible job, but he did say a couple of good things lately. He cut MAGA some slack. He cut conservative media some slack. And, but I don't want to be fooled because it takes more than words, right? And this is the one weakness with President Trump. Sometimes he can be charmed, but you got to watch these people. It's what they do when you're not around.
Now, Justin and Alec, is that permitted in the book of Trump to criticize Trump about going soft on his critics when they stroke him? Like, same thing, likewise with Sid Rosenberg. You say one positive thing about Sid. You could have been his lifelong enemy. He loves you. He'll be talking about you forever. Same personalities. But I will tell you this. January 20th, President Donald Trump gets sworn in for the second time. Trump 47. He then will be appointing ambassadors all over the world that will have diplomatic immunity when they are in in a embassy or a consulate in a foreign country. This was done once before by Harry Truman, who had to get O'Dwyer out as mayor of New York City because he was going to come under indictment for corruption. He announced that he needed an ambassador to Mexico. And they said, oh, for the good of the country, O'Dwyer said, I'm going to leave being mayor of New York City. At that time, the second toughest job in America until Comrade Bill de Blasio, the part-time mayor, the dope from Park Slope came on. And then it was no longer tough. It was a part-time job. But back then, second toughest job. And he gave all of that up to go become ambassador to Mexico, right? Same strategy is being followed now. You'll see Eric Adam on January 20th wearing a MAGA hat, maybe becoming the ambassador to Botswana or Ghana or somewhere, just to keep him out of harm's way from the Department of Justice. And then there's Dominic. Oh, my God, does he kiss Trump's Tuchus and Dupa. And here it is. I confronted him yesterday as I come on with Dominic Carter Monday through Fridays at 3:50 for the Tunnels to Tower summation before Bull Snerdley comes on. Sure. Matt Gaetz. Great call, Attorney General, right? First, Christine Noem to head Homeland Security, and now Matt Gaetz. And yet you find it, all of you folks who so overwhelmingly find it difficult at all to criticize President Donald Trump. You know internally you want to, but you just won't. This is a nutty pick.
Well, I just said that I agree with you on Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. It doesn't make much sense, but I am willing, here we go. I am willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. He was elected with a mandate. He's allowed to select his own team.
Okay. All right, Dominic. Don't worry. Donald will still love you. Remember, he picked, who was it, Vance, who called him Hitler back in 2016? Everything will be okay. You and the rest of oh, yeah. He'll be kissing Trump's Tuchus. Never will criticize him. But the biggest sycophant, toady, and lackey of all, in terms of Christine Noem, the Michael Vick of the Trump administration, now appointed to be the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and Matt Gaetz, appointed to be Attorney General, is Bo Snerdley, a.k.a. James Golden.
I heard Curtis a few minutes ago wondering if I was going to use my time today to criticize Donald Trump over the appointment, the nomination of Matt Gaetz to be this nation's Attorney General. Very short answer. No, I am not going to criticize it. In fact, I am going to tell you why I'm elated over it very, very quickly. And that's just the start of it.
Oh, yeah, and he'll probably spend 3 hours Saturday morning on his show, 7 to 10, making love to Matt Gaetz. But he is definitely not going to confront Trump at all. He made that extraordinarily clear.
It's on. It's on. So no, Curtis, I'm not going to criticize Donald Trump. Why would I? These are great appointments. Every one of them are great appointments. The lion is not sleeping.
Oh, lucky it's not a dog, because his other favorite, Christine Noem, might have come out and just shot the dog there. So let me get this straight. James Golden likes the Michael Vick of the Trump administration now, Christine Noem, for Homeland Security Secretary. And he loves Gaetz, whatever the hell, Matt Gaetz, who, by the way, if you notice, Justin Ellick uses more Botox now in his 30s than Sid Rosenberg does in his 50s. His whole face is blown up. He's starting to look like a young version of Wayne Newton. Hey, any more Botox or facelifts, and your face is going to snap, Matt Gaetz, like an old rubber band. But here was James Golden getting feisty with one of his callers about Matt Gaetz.
And Matt Gaetz, I think he's a little hot-headed, and I don't think he can get confirmed by the Senate. I would prefer someone more mature like Senator Mike Lee or Ted Cruz as AG. Those are my thoughts. I love.
Well, I understand. Look, I understand what you. I'm not going to argue with you about who you believe, and I happen to like Mike Lee and Ted Cruz Both. I think Matt Gaetz is the perfect person because he is a little hot-headed. Because he's not going to sit down and play this mumbo-jumbo, soft-spoken, while we slip the shiv in your back game that the D.C. insiders play. That's not who Matt Gaetz is.
So he smacked down that caller, and he smacked down me. And I'll get him today if it's the last thing I do, most nerdly James Golden, who's on from 4 to 5. And then Saturdays, all 3 hours, it'll be a love affair with Matt Gaetz. But then Greg Kelly, I got another beef with Greg Kelly. He called me out on his show yesterday. He said that he's Mr. Trivia here at WABC.
By the way, I'm the one person apparently in New York City who can beat Curtis in trivia. I mean, he had a reputation as being good at trivia. I'm like, what's this all about? He's not that good in trivia. He makes mistakes all the time. No, he's actually very good in trivia. However, I'm just a little bit better.
Well, this goes back to two situations. When we substituted for Sid Rosenberg, who was in Israel, John Katzmatidis, my normal partner for that, was not available, so it was Greg Kelly and I. And I said, the original choice of President Nixon, the Republican nominee in 1968, to be his vice president was not Agnew, it was John Lindsay. And then Rockefeller stepped in, who hated Lindsay. Lindsay hated Rockefeller, like mayors hate governors here and governors hate mayors, and said, absolutely not. I will not give you any of the Rockefeller fortune to run for president. And back then, there were no campaign financial restrictions. And then Greg contradicted me. He mentioned the name of somebody I just did not recognize. So we left it at that. Then we were talking about the kitchen cabinet debates between Nikita Khrushchev and then Vice President Nixon when Eisenhower was president. But really, Nixon was calling the shots. And I said it happened in Des Moines, Iowa. And on that one, I was wrong. Greg Kelly was correct. They occurred in Moscow at an exhibition in which Richard Nixon, as vice president, was representing the United States in the midst of the Cold War. So he got me on one. It's debatable on the other. But let me tell you something. All of these hosts and hostesses are getting all bent out of shape because I'm calling them out as people who refuse to disagree with Donald Trump. It's like almost idolatry. What are they afraid of? Talk radio is going to be a very boring experience if all they continue to do is, yes, Trump, you're right. 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 Yes, Trump, you're right.
Talk Radio 77 WABC. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read.
Liar, 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 liar by the Castaways. It's going to apply to most politicians, but this especially applies in this segment to the Department of Environmental Conservation of the state of New York. They are disgraziata. They kidnapped and murdered two creatures of God. And under the guise that they might have had rabies, you remember the story, Peanut the squirrel. Let's not forget Freddie the raccoon. That was the rationale they used originally to bum rush this animal sanctuary at a house on a farm in upstate New York. Now, just to set the table, because all of a sudden the Republicans and conservatives have embraced this animal sanctuary for squirrels, for raccoons, for other animals, even though the operators are pornographers. There's Mark Longo, who is a favorite of a lot of gay men because got a long hose. What can I say, Justin Ellick? Even though he's heterosexual, he performs his pornography with his wife that helps him manage the animal sanctuary upstate New York. Gay guys love this guy because apparently he is well endowed. But that's not why the Department of Environmental Conservation decided to send in 10 SUVs, black SUVs, with jackbooted thugs of the Department of Environmental Conservation to abscond, to grab and detain Fred the raccoon. They claim that there had been reports Freddie the raccoon had rabies. Now, how they would know that is beyond me. So they come and they end up searching the whole house from top to bottom for 5 hours. And in the course of this unbelievable search, I don't even think President Donald Trump and Melania was searched that many hours in Mar-a-Lago. Maybe they were, for the so-called presidential documents. Or even Roger Stone of the Stone Zone. Remember when the feds raided him? And even they came out of the water. They came like a SEAL team. This was so over the top. So they say they had to take Freddie the raccoon to test him for rabies. And then, all of a sudden, somebody decided to stand his ground. And wearing his Don Imus cowboy hat, it was Peanut, the squirrel, that they had rescued at a very young age. Peanut was on the verge of dying, and the Longo family rescued Peanut, and he became more than just an animal free to roam on the sanctuary that was on their farm. He lived inside the house. There were so many videos of him. He was vibrant. He had a tremendous following around the world, Peanut the squirrel. So then these jackbooted thugs of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation said that as they were prepared to leave with Fred the raccoon, the Peanut bit one of the agents in the hand. And now they fear that if he also had rabies, the agent could get infected. So they absconded with not only Fred the raccoon and Peanut the squirrel, taking him out at gunpoint, but they brought him to some laboratory, and the test for rabies is to chop off their heads. And then they do a necropsy. And it turns out that, A, the object of their raid, Fred the raccoon, did not have rabies, according to the toxicology report, and neither did Peanut. Now, in a few seconds, Governor Holcomb is going to announce that she is once again reimposing congestion pricing on us in a more limited way than the $15 a ride, but it'll be $9, claiming she's somehow going to save us money. She is a grifter of the worst type. It is her New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. She has been asked to comment on this hundreds of times, refuses to. Takes the code of omerta. Today will be the perfect opportunity after she makes the announcement that will help destroy New York City and help destroy New York State. And there is a story in the Post today. They've done the analytics. By the year 2050, they expect a total of 2 million people to have picked up and escaped New York, as if Kurt Russell had to do a trilogy. The third movie, this one will be Escape from New York, not New York City. She will once again refuse to answer any questions. Those that operate that animal sanctuary that not only helped Peanut the squirrel survive and Fred the raccoon and so many dozens of other animals, Mark Longo and his wife, they have said that this week will be dedicated to the wake and the funeral burial because both Peanut and Fred have been returned without their heads. Apparently, they're keeping their heads in a vat of formaldehyde back at the laboratory. So they will be open caskets. You'll be able to view both Fred the raccoon and Peanut the squirrel at their sanctuary before burial. And then they are preparing to do what all Americans do when they've been violated, and that is to practice the martial art, I sue. And the lawyers will be coming after Kathy Holcomb, as they should.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history. Physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004 now to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.